라이, 쉐어, 서브스크라이브.
Saladin brings his brother Turan Shah to the Fatimid capital Cairo, with an army in August 1169. Ismaili assassins attempt to kill Saladin during his siege of Aleppo, May 22, 1175. Saladin and his son Al-Afdal, at the Battle of Hittin, July 4, 1187. 1164, the Fatimid wazir was weak and cowardly, paying tribute to the Crusaders in Jerusalem. Nur ad-Din sent an army led by Shirkuh, along with Saladin, to support another man until he came to power. The new vizier then betrayed them and cooperated with King Almorik of Jerusalem, financing his campaign against Shirkuh and Saladin. Saladin won the Battle of Khan Arish on July 18, but was besieged in Bilbais from August to November and withdrew to Syria. 1167, Saladin and Shirkuh campaigned against King Almorik of Jerusalem's third intervention, defeating the Crusader Fatimid alliance at Albabain on March 18. Saladin leads the defense of Alexandria between May and June, then withdraws to Syria. 1169, Saladin and Shirkuh are invited to bring an army to Egypt to confront King Almorik's fifth intervention. Saladin takes over as commander of Nur ad-Din's forces in Egypt after the death of Shirkuh and is appointed wazir of the Fatimid Caliph in March. Saladin crushes a rebellion by Sudanese regiments of the Fatimid army in August, then defeats a Byzantine crusader siege of Dumyat, lasted from October to December. 1170, Saladin raids Darum and Gaza, and retakes Aileh from the Kingdom of Jerusalem in December. 1171, Saladin takes over as governor of Egypt on the death of the last Fatimid Caliph, ruling in the name of Nur ad-Din of Syria in September. 1171, Mosul recognizes the suzerainty of Nur ad-Din. 1171, aborted joint attack on Kerak by Saladin and Nur ad-Din from September to November. 1172, Nubians attack Aswan in the summer, retaliation by Saladin's brother Turan Shah. On December he installs a garrison in Qasr Ibrim. 1173, Saladin leads an army against Bedouin tribes in Ultra-Jordan to secure a route between Egypt and Syria, then he raids Kerak in the summer. 1173, Saladin sends an army under Karakush on his first expedition into Libya. 1173, Sicilian Norman fleet attacks Alexandria between July and August. 1173, in August a pro-Fatimid rising in Upper Egypt, led by Kans al-Dawla, the governor of Aswan, it was crushed by Saladin's brother Al-Adil in September. 1174, death of Nur ad-Din Zengi in May. Saladin takes control of Damascus, Hims and Hama between October and December. 1174, Saladin sends Turan Shah with an army and supporting fleet to conquer Yemen. The campaign lasted from February until June.
Albabain Battle, 18 on March 19, 1167. Shirkuh's baggage train, between the main desert and the sand hills. Saladin, almost certainly in command of the center, largely consisting of Arab Bedouin troops, with orders to fall back towards the baggage train and then to counterattack as the situation allowed. Shirkuh probably in command of the traditionally offensive right wing, largely consisting of Turkish Gaz troops including Shirkuh's own Asadiya personnel regiment. The traditionally defensive left wing, including largely consisting of Kurdish troops. Fatimid Frankish army arrives from El-Ashminin, having crossed the Bar Yusuf Canal east of Dilga. Fatimid Frankish array, probably with Frankish cavalry, under Hughes of Kisara, on the right, Fatimid cavalry, under the Wazir Shawar, on the left and a mixed Fatimid and Frankish infantry in cavalry center, under King Almorik. Fatimid Frankish baggage train. Frankish cavalry, under Hughes of Caesarea attacks the enemy's center, perhaps believing it to be commanded by Shirkuh. The center under Saladin falls back towards Shirkuh's baggage train, then counterattacks after Shirkuh charges the main enemy line. Shirkuh and the right wing closed the gap behind Hughes of Caesarea and attacked the main Fatimid Frankish position. Shirkuh's left wing probably also charges, perhaps heading for the enemy's baggage train. Frankish cavalry under Hughes of Caesarea suffer severe losses, Hughes himself being captured, while most of the knights probably flee. The main Fatimid Frankish force crumbles and abandons the field. Hughes of Creona and Eustache Cholet are killed, while Arnulf of Tol Bashir and Bishop Roel of Bethlehem are captured. The Fatimid Frankish baggage train is captured. Scattered fighting continues in valleys south of the battlefield. Amalric rallies his men, while the nearest enemy troops are preoccupied with other targets. He retreats across the Bahr Yusuf and then to Miniat Ibn al-Qasib, now called Alminia. Shawwal probably retreats in the same direction and they are joined by Gerard of Pongi, Jocelyn of Samosata and perhaps Shawwal's son Al-Kamil, with the largely infantry force that has crossed the Nile. Shirkuh's army returns north, keeping the Bahr Yusuf Canal between themselves and the main enemy force.
Conquest of Jerusalem in Third Crusade, 1174–86, Frontiers c. 1192. From December 1174 to March 1175, Saladin unsuccessfully besieges Nur al-Din's successor in Aleppo. Assassins attempt to kill Saladin. Crusader raid against Saladin's forces, still besieging citadel of Hims. Saladin abandons siege of Aleppo, instead completes siege of Hims and takes Bilbek. 1175, April 13, Saladin defeats Sangit counteroffensive by Aleppo and Mosul at Horns of Homa. 1175, summer, Saladin sends Karakush as part of continued competition with Muwahhidin to control Libya. 1176, April 22, Saladin defeats Sangids at Tal el-Sultan, then negotiates suzerainty over Aleppo in July. 1176, September 17, Byzantine Emperor Manuel defeated by Seljuks of Rum at Myriokephalon. 1177, summer, Sicilian Norman fleet raids Tunis. 1177, November 25, raid by Saladin into Kingdom of Jerusalem, is defeated at Tal el-Safiya. 1178, spring, Saladin defeats attempt by Seljuks of Rum to besiege Raban. 1179, April-August, Saladin defeats Kingdom of Jerusalem at Marj al-Uyun, takes the Templar castle at Beit el-Azan. 1180, Saladin intervenes in quarrel between Zangids of Mosul and Artukids of Hizan Kefir, convinces Seljuks of Rum not to interfere, then raids Silidan Armenia. 1181, summer, Reynald of Chitilan raids the northern Hijaz. 1182, July-August, Saladin raids Kingdom of Jerusalem. 1182, December, Saladin fails to take Zangid Mosul, but captures Sinjar. 1183, January-February, Reynald of Chitilan sends raiding fleet into the Red Sea, but penetration as far as Aden is unconfirmed. 1183, February, Reynald of Chitilan's fleet is destroyed by Husam al-Din Lulu near Rabbi. 1183, May, Saladin takes Mir Farakin, Mardin, and Diyarbakir, imposes direct rule on Aleppo in June. 1183, September-October, Saladin raids the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Then, between November and December, he summons an army from Egypt under Al-Adil for an unsuccessful joint attack on Kerak. 1186, March, Mosul recognizes Saladin's suzerainty. 1187, January or February, Reynald of Chitilan breaks truce by capturing Muslim caravan, including members of Saladin's family. 1187, March, Saladin establishes military camp at Rizal and summons troops for jihad against Crusader states. 1187, March, Taqi al-Din takes over the defense of the northern frontiers. 1187, April Saladin from Damascus and Eladil from Egypt joined forces to raid Kerak area. 1187, May 1st Muslim reconnaissance force defeats Crusader force at Springs of Crescent. 1187, May 27 Saladin orders Ayyubid forces to muster at Toloshtar.
1187, July 2nd Saladin invades Kingdom of Jerusalem, takes town, but not citadel of Tiberias, defeats Kingdom of Jerusalem and County of Tripoli at Hattin on July 4th. 1187, July 10 Saladin retakes Acre, Sidon in July 29th, Beirut in August 6th, Ascalon in September 5th, and Jerusalem in October 2nd. 1188, January 1st Saladin abandons siege of Tyre and disbands most of his army. 1188, July 22nd Saladin takes Tartus town, but not citadel, takes Latakia, and agrees truce with Principality of Antioch in September 25th. 1188-89, Winter Saladin takes Castle of Belvoir. 1189, August 28 King Guy of Jerusalem moves from Tyre to besiege Acre. 1189, September Saladin moves against King Guy's siege. 1190, June 10 Emperor Frederick, leader of the German imperial contingent of Third Crusade, drowns. 1189-91, arrival of contingents of the Third Crusade at Siege of Acre. 1191, June 12 Saladin's garrison in Acre surrenders. They and their families are massacred in August 20th. 1191, September 7 parallel marches by Saladin and forces of Third Crusade attacked by Saladin is defeated at Asaf. 1191, 10-11 September Saladin demolishes fortifications of Ascalon, pulls back to Ramla and then let run, disbands most of his army, falls back to Jerusalem in December 12. 1192, January-August skirmishing between forces of Saladin and Third Crusade, peace agreement signed between representatives of Saladin and King Richard in 2nd of September. 1192, October King Richard sails homeward from Acre. 1193, March 3 Saladin dies in Damascus.
Tignan, July 24, 1189. Saladin leaves Damascus on April 21 to attack Shukif Anan, marching via Marj el-Bargath, near Banias, where the various elements of his forces reassembled, before establishing his camp on the fertile meadows of Marj el-Uyun in May 5. Further units join Saladin's camp, while the Sultan studies the castle every day. Reynald of Sidon, lord of Shukif Anan, goes to Saladin's camp to negotiate and hints that he might convert to Islam. He is also credited with shouting to his garrison to surrender in Arabic but to resist in French. In 17th of June Saladin receives a letter from Al-Qadi al-Fidio informing him of the birth of his grandson. Frankish troops cross the Litani Bridge, dividing the lordships of Tyre and Sidon. Saladin gathers a force on 3rd of July and hurries to the scene, but finds the enemy already repulsed. July 5, Saladin makes his daily reconnaissance of Shukif Anan, but is joined by a crowd of what were described as volunteers, common folk, and Bedouin, who think he intends an assault. Refusing to disperse, they cross the bridge and are struck by a Frankish cavalry charge, and many are killed. Because of the disaster on the 5th of July, Saladin decides on an offensive. King Guy marches towards the Litani crossing and makes camp, but then retreats. On July 13, Saladin moves out of Marj el-Uyun, but his advance guard informs him that the enemy has again retreated. Land communications between Crusader-held Tyre and Tripoli are now definitively cut. Saladin decides that Guy is likely to attack Tignan or Acre, so he inspects their defenses. On July 22, Saladin returns to Marj el-Uyun to await the end of the truce that he has agreed with Reynald of Sidon. Saladin also learns that enemy foragers are ranging as far as Jabal Tibnin to collect fuel, so he decides to ambush them.
Frankish foragers and their cavalry escort, reportedly commanded by King Guy, leave camp outside Tyre. Saladin's garrison, in Tibnin, is ordered to emerge with a small force to harass the enemy foragers on the morning of July 24, but to flee back to Tibnin if pursued by enemy cavalry. Saladin's garrison, in Acre, is ordered to threaten the main Frankish camp if the main enemy army moves to support its foragers, but there is no evidence that it did so. Saladin and his main force leave camp at dawn of July 24 and reach a spot close to the place where the Tibnin garrison will harass the Frankish foragers. Saladin divides his force into 8 divisions, from each of which he selects 20 of those regarded as the bravest men on the best horses. The latter are instructed to make themselves look like a badly hidden ambush in order to draw the enemy into combat, and then to retreat, pulling their pursuers towards Saladin's real ambush. King Guy learns of the threatened ambush and draws his cavalry into battle formation. A fight develops between the Franks and the false ambush, and according to Bohar el-Din the latter are too proud to retreat and induced by their zeal to disobey the Sultan and to meet a numerous enemy with such a little band. The struggle continues until late in the day, but the false ambush did not, or could not, warn Saladin of the delay in their planned retreat. Saladin learns of the situation and sends several detachments to support the false ambush, but, because it is too late for a major battle, accepts that his plan has failed. Seeing Saladin's reinforcements, the Franks recognize the danger of their position, kill their captives and retreat to Tyre. The following day, July 25, Saladin learns that one of his elite Mamluk soldiers, Aybak, is missing. The wounded man is found amongst the dead, and, as Bohar el-Din recalls, they took him up and carried him to the camp in that state, and God restored him to full health.
Like, share, subscribe.